Week 4 wide receivers primed to succeed. That and more coming up next. All right, so our start this week is Stefon Diggs. Now, he's kind of disappointed a little bit early on in the season. The targets have been there. The production just hasn't been what we expected, and I think that gets back on track in week 4 against Houston. Now, you might look at the Houston defensive rankings when you look at the matchup, and it might be bad, but those are inflated. When you actually look at the numbers and you look at the different weeks, Cleveland had 50 yards in week 2. Why? Well, that wide receiving core banged up. They've been using the shit out of their tight ends early on in the season, just kind of using them more as receivers in this offense. Meanwhile, running behind those same tight ends, so they got these big formations that they can run behind it, and then these receiver tight ends turn into receivers. So it's a great setup for a run-heavy offense in Cleveland, but it kind of skews the numbers against that Houston defense. And when you actually look deeper into it, Carolina and Jacksonville wide receivers combined for 426 yards when you add up week 1 and week 3 numbers. And so you could reasonably assume that a competent wide receiving core, because Carolina, it's not like they're like super high octane, was able to put up over 200 yards receiving on this defense, that there's no reason that the Buffalo Bills aren't going to go crazy once again in week 4 against Houston. Stefon Diggs has a great opportunity. We haven't seen the will or desire for the Buffalo Bills to take the foot off the gas. I expect him to once again get at least 8 targets, if not 10 or 12, once again putting him in a prime time position in a plus matchup to take advantage and finally return on that high investment that you made on him on draft day. Coming up next, put up or shut up time. That's right, put up or shut up time for Robert fucking Woods. Robert Woods has failed to put up at all this season. He is in one of the most prolific passing attacks that we have in 2021. And what do we have to show for it? Nada, nil, zilch, nothing. This guy has not been putting up anything. He's got a great matchup this week. It's put up or shut up time for Robert Woods. This guy has a great matchup against Arizona. They've given up 504 yards, 5 touchdowns to receivers through 3 weeks so far this year. We've seen Kupp go off. We've seen Deshaun Jackson go off. We've seen Van Jefferson go off. Where's Woods? Where the fuck is Woods? He's nowhere to be found. It is put up or shut up time for Robert Woods. If he doesn't come through this week, it's time to reevaluate what we think of Robert Woods moving forward. There's a lot of buy low speculation on Robert Woods right now. Oh, should we be buying low? Should we be buying low? If you buy low on him this week, you got to put him in that lineup because it's put up or shut up time. Because if he puts up this week, all right, maybe you got something back. Maybe you were able to buy low on something. But if he doesn't this week, man, how can you feel comfortable deploying Robert Woods? So to me, he's guy, great matchup, great offense. Got to deploy him one more time, right? I mean, you don't have to, but I think this is a good time to deploy him one more time. Can't get it done. Reevaluate it. Pine's looking pretty good for Mr. Robert Woods. In a position to succeed, a Jaylen Waddle, waddling out there with this 13 targets last week, 12 receptions. He's actually been uber efficient in the catch category. He's got a super high catch rate. Part of that being that, he's catching the ball within like 2 yards of the line of scrimmage almost every fucking time. Go look at his first NFL touchdown. It came within a couple yards of the line of scrimmage, of the goal line. And it was a great play. It was a good play design to get him in space to make a play. But last week, it was just like, let's get it in his hands. Let's get it in his hands. And they didn't have a lot of thought of what they were going to do after getting it in his hands. The one thing is they want to use this guy. And he's got a great matchup. Great matchup this week. Indy's given up 526 yards receiving to wide receivers. 7 touchdowns to receivers in 3 weeks. He's averaging 9 targets a game. Like I said, coming off a 13-target game. I don't know if I expect another 13 targets, but if he got 13 again, I would expect this guy minimum got 100 yards receiving and a touchdown against this Indy defense. It's not what we thought it was going to be. This Indy defense has been, pretty good against the run. Not at all good against the pass. That's good for Waddle. We have Will Fuller coming back. Probably he was cited at practice today, dealing with a chest injury, dealing with whatever injury. He's always dealing with an injury. Thank you, Will Fuller, for being like Tyreek Hill made of glass. So you could be really fucking good, but you're always fucking broken. So thanks. You just vacuuming the $10 million right out of the fucking Miami Dolphins pocket. He's like, didn't play week 1. Didn't play week 2. 3 receptions for 20 yards week 3. Just give me that fucking money. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Meanwhile, Waddle earning every fucking penny. Like, they're just setting him up to get fucking tackled. I don't know if you guys saw the safety play where it was him and like 5 fucking goddamn Las Vegas Raiders in his own end zone. He's like, I don't know what the fuck to do. He just, that safety. That's all, like, wonderful play calling. So hopefully they improve that this week. But going against a really vulnerable Indy defense, and he looks to be the best option in this passing attack. Another guy, Odell Beckham Jr., came back, looked pretty damn good last week. I expect him to be out there for a few more routes. He's, got Jarvis Landry on IR, so it's like him. It's like Donovan People-Jones, and I've been waiting for that guy to start being involved after all the buzz on him in the offseason, but there was no buzz. So we're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. and then just a bunch of tight ends, basically. And Odell, like I said, looked good last week. Now gets the Vikings D that hasn't looked great. They've given up 628 yards and 6 touchdowns to wide receivers through the first 3 weeks of the season. I expect Beckham to come back, have his first good game of the season, possibly even great game of the season. Maybe we can start talking about this guy as a legitimate wide receiver 3 again. Maybe, I don't know if he'll ever make it back into that wide receiver 2 position. I don't know if he'll ever have the target share to get there, but he's definitely got the talent to be a wide receiver 3 if you're, or a great flex for your team. And this week is set up perfectly for Odell Beckham Jr. to have his first good game of the season. And, it's only his second game, but no Jarvis Landry there in a Vikings defense that's giving up plays through the air, and getting in shootouts every single week. And that's great news for the likes of Odell Beckham Jr. Guy, this is not your week, Mr. Michael Pittman. Coming off back-to-back 12 target games. This guy is obviously right now Carson Wentz's favorite target. He is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 right now in Indy. And he is a talented receiver. We've seen it from him. We saw it more in 2020 than we have in 2021. I don't think he's been hyper efficient with his targets so far. However, 12 targets for the last 2 weeks is a great opportunity for him to perform. However, you're talking about a guy that has a quarterback with 2 sprained ankles and going against one of the better corner duos in the league in the Miami Dolphins. I know that defense has been giving up points and giving up plays, but the corners that they have, the secondary they have, should be able to lock down the likes of Michael Pittman. And they have given up one touchdown every single week to a wide receiver. But man, I think they're focused on Pittman. And if a wide receiver gets in, it's going to be Zach Pascal, because that's been the guy in the red zone for Carson Wentz. And that's how I see them getting in with a wide receiver, is with Zach Pascal. But in reality, I think they're going to do the damage with a lot of Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. So I just don't think Michael Pittman with a quarterback halfway to being broken ankles, throwing him the ball, just a subpar passing attack against two good corners. I don't like it. And it's not your week. Now, you can look at those 12 targets. I don't know what you have on your bench. I don't know what you're going to try to slide into your flex. He might be your best option just based on opportunity to put in that flex. I'm not telling you to sit him, but I'm saying it's probably not his week, despite the fact of his insane target share the last 2 weeks. Beware these guys. Beware Chase Claypool. If both Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson come back this week, both came back in a limited way on Thursday, I expect a dramatic decrease in targets for Chase Claypool. And he'll need a touchdown or two to really come through. It's not going to be like last week where he got an insane, 10, 12 targets last week. And he was able to, I think it was 12, 9 for 96 off the top of my head. If I was to just try to remember off the top of my head, I believe he had 12 targets, 9 receptions, 96 yards, kind of took over that Deontay Johnson role. And if Deontay Johnson comes back, Juju comes back, guess who's the guy who's taking the shots downfield? And that is good if he catches them, because this is a guy, we are waiting for the big play. Maybe it is this week. Maybe Jair Alexander has so much time on Deontay Johnson. Maybe fucking Ben Roethlisberger's arm stops turning into a piece of rubber and it solidifies and he's able to get that ball downfield to Chase Claypool. I don't fucking know. All I know is you kind of got to beware Chase Claypool. I expect a dramatic decrease in his targets this week, and he's going to have to be a big play downfield on a team that's not really throwing the ball downfield very much, with a quarterback that doesn't look like he can throw downfield at all anymore. So that's worrisome. I mean, obviously, this guy, if it was 4 years ago, you'd be like, yes, put him in there. This is like Martavis Bryant 2.0. The problem is the quarterback situation. Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben, now shriveled up Ben. So I just beware Chase Claypool and beware Kenny Golladay. I thought last week, man, I had this guy as a start last week going against Atlanta. Then the perfect situation fucking sets up for him. Sterling Shepard goes down with a hamstring injury. Darius Slayton goes down with a hamstring injury. Both the guys that are supposed to keep this guy from being a target hog go down. He gets 5 targets against the Atlanta defense after losing the 2 other target hogs on the fucking roster, and he still can't get more than 5 targets. What the fuck? I don't even know what to say. This guy is a boom bust player at this point who is yet to come even close to booming in 2021. Right now, Hunter Renfrow is a better PPR wide receiver than Kenny Golladay. Hunter Renfrow actually probably in standard, I haven't looked, but he's probably in standard a better wide receiver than Kenny Golladay. He and Danny Dimes apparently not on the same page. They weren't able to figure it out in the 10-day layoff between a Thursday night game and their week 3 game. What the fuck are we supposed to expect now? All of a sudden, they're going to force feed Kenny Golladay? He didn't do it last week. I mean, unless you're going to turn Kenny Golladay into Sterling Shepard, I don't see him being anything than a boom or bust guy that has yet to boom. All right, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. I'll be joining Football Sunday with Mike Lynch and Rashad Taylor on 1080 The Fan here in Portland, Oregon on Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. We do the Fantasy Scramble. We take those last minute start sit questions as a panel. We answer them, and you can send in your last minute start sit questions too. You can send them in to 503-250-1080. Again, you can text these questions to 503-250-1080. You can listen live on the Audacity app or just on your computer. I'll have the link down below, and you can send in your questions, listen live, and we'll answer them live right there on the radio. Thank you again for watching, and make sure you check out my week 4 running back start sits.